Canes Postgame Live starts now, right here on WRAL.
You see fans leaving the Lenovo Center after a roller coaster of a Game 5 in Raleigh in the Eastern Conference Final. Hello, everyone, and welcome into WRAL's exclusive Canes post-game live show. I'm Luis Fernandez. We have plenty to talk about tonight. Team coverage for you from across Raleigh. WRAL's Pat Welter and former Carolina Hurricane and current analyst Shane Willis are out on the ice at Lenovo with analysis. Chris Lee will join us with reaction from the locker room and podium from players, and head coach Rod Brindamore. All right, let's get to the highlights here in Game 5. The Canes up against a wall. Do or die, win or go home. Canes with some confidence. Forsling gives it up in the neutral zone in the first period. Sebastian Aho zips it in. Fist pumping, mouth guard out. The Canes are feeling it. He is feeling it. Up 1-0. I don't know if Forsling was trying to be cute or if he never sees Aho, but Fishy makes a splash. Raleigh loving it. End of the first period now. Nico Mikola, back after missing Game 4, gives it up to none other than, who else? Sebastian Aho. 2 goals in 1 period for Aho. The Canes were feeling good early on. Look at it, sneak past Sergei Bobrovsky there. Canes up 2-0 to end the first. Let's go to the second period now. Penalties were a problem all night for the Canes. Jesperi Kokiniemi called for holding on Evan Rodriguez. And then 15 seconds into the power play, Panthers get it to go. They went 10 straight power plays without a score. Lucky number 11 does it. Matthew Tkachuk gets Florida on the board. 30 seconds later, Canes can't get control of the puck in the neutral zone. Florida moving fast. Sam Bennett to Rodriguez. We have a tie game. Check out the replay. Just a perfect read here from Bennett. Great timing to Rodriguez, his first goal of the postseason. A few minutes later, Brad Marchand off the faceoff, crosses it. Anton Lundell makes it 3-2. Check out the replay here. Third period now. Panthers still up. Andrei Svechnikov taps it up to Seth Jarvis, ties the game about halfway through the third. Lenovo absolutely rocking early on. This was really an effort from Svechnikov to get this puck to Jarvis. Great patience from Jarvis. Big players making big plays in big moments. Florida, they've got some big players too. Just a few minutes later in the third period, it's going to be a goal. Verhaeghe, Carter Verhaeghe gets it to go, and that gives the Panthers the lead. They add an empty netter. That will make it 5-3, the final, and that will be the season for the Carolina Hurricanes. They lose in the Eastern Conference Finals 4-1 overall. All right, let's go ahead and get out to the Lenovo Center now, where Shane Willis and Pat Welter join us. A lot to break down, not just with the game, but with the season for this one, y'all. What a roller coaster of 60 minutes of hockey.
It really was, Lewis, and the Canes got the start they wanted in this game too, Shane. Not just their best period of the series, maybe one of their best periods of the entire season. But the story in the second, entirely different. Really the story of the series, Shane. You give this Panthers team an inch, they take a mile. 3 goals in 4:36, turn the whole entire game.
Tonight was a perfect example of why, as fans, we love and hate professional sports, because it can turn in a second in any professional sport, and it did tonight. I agree with you. The first period for the Carolina Hurricanes was one of the best we've seen all postseason long. I agree with you. Maybe one of the best we've seen all season to start a game. But the second period you mentioned, a championship team, when you give them a little room and you make a mistake, the power play goal isn't a mistake. They make a good play on the power play and they score. Where you turn the puck over, and we talked about it going into Game 4, you can't turn pucks over in the neutral zone. You have to get control because transition is killer, and the Panthers dominated in that area again tonight to capitalize.
So many of these games in the playoffs, it can be just as simple as the special teams battle. And the Panthers 1 for 4, but the Canes 0 for 6, Shane, including a 6-on-4 in the final minutes of the game. They had their chances, they just couldn't cash one.
The power play, to me, all postseason long was the Achilles heel of this team. It did have a few goals in the early series that really helped them propel into this round, But really against the Florida Panthers, it slowed their momentum. It took life out of the team because it just wasn't able to capitalize in those key moments. It was a one-goal game. They had a power play late. They pulled a goal. It was 6-on-4. They couldn't capitalize to tie it, to send it overtime. And it was one of the things that the team will look at as you go to the offseason. The focus will be on the power play. How do you continue to make it better and score at big moments?
Well, this brings us now to the conversation people were already having when the Canes were down 3-0 in this series. They do finally snap the Eastern Conference Final losing streak, but the overall streak remains here. 7 years under Rod Brind'Amour, 3 Eastern Conference Final losses, now only 1 win overall in all those games. Raises the question, is the system good enough to win the Cup?
I believe it is, because when you look around the league, the system is played by a number of different teams, including the Florida Panthers. The way they play their system, and they just grind you down. It takes a few bounces in the playoffs. I think you also have to look at Rod Brind'Amour missing 2 of his top 6 defensemen in this round, which is a big hole, playing rookies on the back end, especially in these type of moments. But the system is there. You have to continue to push. You have to continue to grow. And I think when players continue to mature, and yes, they've been here before. This is the 3rd time for this team and a number of players. You have to look across, and teams that get bounced out of the playoffs, the Florida Panthers, for example, a few years ago, watched the other team and they said, what do we need to do to beat teams like that? And they instill that in the way they play. And that's part of the maturity step that this personnel and this team here will need to do as they move forward.
There are only 4 teams standing now. Only 3 remain. A lot of questions for the Canes this offseason. We're going to get more into that coming up after the break. Lewis, back to you.
All right, thank you all so much. Let's go ahead and look at that roster for a second here. Sebastian Aho, we know how good he is, and he showed it throughout this game. 2 goals in an elimination game. Aho has 6 career goals in potential elimination games, which makes 2nd most in franchise history, just 1 goal behind the record. So some of the big players really coming to play in this game after Rod Brind'Amour had some harsh words for them after Game 3. They're continuing to respond here in this one, something to keep an eye out for as we move into the offseason. Okay, let's go ahead and head back to the Lenovo Center now, where WRAL sports anchor Chris Lee is joining us. Chris, you were in the locker room. What's kind of the reaction to this one? I'm sure folks are still trying to mull over now that the season is done.
Absolutely, Lewis. It was the ones that you would think would talk is who ended up talking to us, Jordan Stahl and Sebastian Aho. But before we go to that, it was just interesting walking to the locker room because those guys knew that their season was over. You saw a couple of guys in their weight room area that's inside of their locker room talking to each other, consoling each other, patting each other on the back, because they know that this season has come to an end, and they thought that they had what it took to go a little bit further. But in this game, we talked about it before, it was that 4-minute and 36-second stretch in the second period where the Panthers ended up scoring 3 goals. It was turnovers for the Carolina Hurricanes. It was penalties for the Carolina Hurricanes that helped to give it to them after, as Shane and Pat talked about, one of the best periods we've seen from the Canes this postseason, and they lost it on that stretch, and they talked about that after the game.
Another power play goal that the K's got to have, and I could have done their job of clocking that one if you want to really break it down. I think they made a quick play out of our end on the second one. Not sure, honestly, how that one unfolded. But obviously we just kind of got off our game, and they got going a little bit and got some momentum. And
had a few looks there in on the power play, and then they got their power play and they scored a goal, and they got a little life out of that. And next thing you know, they're up a goal, and yeah, obviously they used their momentum really well, but we came back, so yeah.
Head coach Rod Brind'Amour is currently talking to the media, so coming up after the break, we will hear from head coach Rod Brind'Amour and his reflections on this game and also the season. Lewis?
All right, Chris, thank you so much. Plenty more to come on the Canes post-game live show. We go to final thoughts from Lenovo Center. Rod Brind'Amour, the Canes roster, and off-season moves when we return.
Was lifting the stick while Burns was coming down. I don't get that to be. Between Molly leaving and Mom's osteoporosis, I thought life was gonna slow down. Boy, was I wrong.
If you have postmenopausal osteoporosis and are at high risk for fracture, Evenity can help you rapidly build new bone in just 12 months. Evenity is the only bone builder that also helps slow bone loss, and it's proven to significantly reduce spine fracture risk.
She said the Evenity she's taking builds new bone. Builds new bone! So yeah, we still bike, babysit, and brunch with the ladies.
Evenity can increase risk of heart attack, stroke, or death from a heart problem. Tell your doctor if you have had a heart attack or stroke. Do not take Evenity if you have low blood calcium or are allergic to it, as serious events have occurred with Evenity. Signs include rash, hives, swelling of the face or throat, which may cause difficulty in swallowing or breathing, muscle spasms or cramps, numbness, or tingling. Tell your doctor about severe jawbone problems, as they have been reported with Evenity. Report hip, groin, or thigh pain. Unusual thigh bone fractures have occurred with Evenity. Ask your doctor about building new bone with Evenity.
Hurricanes running into a bit of a juggernaut here in the playoffs 2 of the past 3 years. Put this in perspective, the Florida Panthers are just the 7th team since in the expansion era in the NHL to make it to 3 straight Stanley Cup Finals. Of course, the Panthers won the Stanley Cup last season. Okay, let's get back out to the Lenovo Center where Chris Lee is joining us again. Chris, you hinted at it before the commercial break. We're hearing from head coach Rod Brind'Amour. Tell us a little bit about what his reaction was to this one.
For sure, Lewis. You know, before this season started with the Carolina Hurricanes retooling their roster, losing a lot of key pieces from last year and replacing them with some unknowns here in the Carolina Hurricanes uniform, a lot of folks felt like the Canes may not do much this season. And we saw that they actually, even though this is a sad day, got to the Eastern Conference Final and was able to go against the Stanley Cup champions from last year and did a really good job. So the Canes were able to kind of exceed expectations for a lot of people, and they were able to get this far. It's one of the things that head coach Rod Brind'Amour and also Sebastian Aho spoke about after the game.
There's another level, like I said. I think we came off a real hard series, physical series, and then all of a sudden it went another level, and it took us a little time to kind of adapt to it, and I thought we did. I thought we were good. It's just, you know, you can't give these guys a 3-0 lead and expect to, you know, come back. It's a big hole.
So that finalizes the season for the Carolina Hurricanes, and it's not the ending that they wanted, but now they're going to have to go back, retool a little bit more, and we'll see what Eric Tolsky has to say about that and what he does with this roster as they're trying to make it to that next level next year.
All right, Chris, thank you so much. Before we head out to final thoughts, let's take a quick look at the top of that roster for the Carolina Hurricanes. Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, and Seth Jarvis all playing massive roles in this entire postseason. Svechnikov leading them with 8 goals in this one. You see here some of the free agents for the Canes, which brings us to the final thoughts over in the Lenovo Center. Let's hand out to Pat Welter and Shane Willis. There's a lot to talk about here. We got about 2 minutes. Where do the Canes go from here? I know the season's just freshly over, but you got to start looking at next year.
Yeah, 7 straight playoff appearances, Lewis. They've made it to the second round at least every single year under Rod Brind'Amour. And I know a lot of people in the media, maybe some fans, wanted to bury Rod Brind'Amour when they're down 3-0 in this series. But I think if you step back, look at the big picture, you could argue this might be Rod's greatest coaching job on the whole. What did you think?
I obviously am probably a little bit biased with how much respect I have for Rod Brind'Amour, because there is not a coach around the league that cares as much about a group of players that Rod Brind'Amour does inside that locker room. He's changed the culture, and making it into the playoffs for 7 straight years says a ton about a coach and how players play for him. Now, he mentioned it. We have to find another level. In these situations, you have to find another level. And it's not about the team atmosphere of pointing fingers. You always have to self-analyze of what you can do better. Now, we talked about free agents for a moment there. The big key in how this organization is set up and how they continue to run, they have flexibility this summer. They have cash to be able to spend and find those pieces. Now the part is addressing what needs to be brought in and going out and finding it.
Well, let's take a look at some of those free agents, and there are some big ones and some aging ones potentially coming off the books. Brent Burns, Dmitry Orlov, probably the 2 biggest ones, and I think the Kings know what they need to do here, Shane. They traded for Mikko Rantanen. They traded for Jake Gensel. Do you expect them to make a big move in the offseason again, and could we see a big piece dare I say, somebody like Andrei Svechnikov out the door.
I think the big piece is going to be in play once again. Eric Tulsky is going to be very aggressive. Tom Dundon from the top wants to become better. They want to have a championship here. You have to go out and, again, this summer, take a swing. But you also have positivity. Moro Nikishin on the back end. Young talent coming into the fold.
Well, I have a feeling we might be back here having the same discussion next year. Hopefully, it's on the way to a Stanley Cup. For Shane Willis, Pat Walter, Chris Lee, everybody behind the scenes, Luis Fernandez, thanks for watching. Raise up.